Hey, how's it going? I'm your challenger coach, Moriarty, here to bring you a guide on how to play League of Legends' newest champion, Sett. And compared to the last guide I did, this one required a lot less reading, which is fantastic. This guide will be focused on being concise and to the point so that you will be able to go into game as quickly as possible without feeding on Sett. Though this might happen anyways, as he is unlikely to be as overpowered as Aphelios' release, but anyways, let's get right into the guide. Sett is a physical damage juggernaut champion who will be played primarily as a top lane carry. Will people try him out in other roles? Yes. Will it work well? Well, his jungle might be okay, but I'm willing to bet if it's too strong, it's gonna get gutted real quick and he'll just be sent back to the island of top lane. As far as his role on a team, he is a fairly straightforward juggernaut. I know many people are making the comparison to Vi, but he's much closer to champions like Darius from Mordekaiser, and he plays like them too. He does well versus tanks or melee heavy comps, and his damage output is super high, but with almost no mobility, he's gonna get kited quite easily in the late game. Alright, so the most unique thing about Sett is he is the most basic juggernaut or even champion that's been released recently. He simply walks up and punches people. That's it. He's League of Legends version of Little Mac from Smash Ultimate. Very good at what he does, which is, punching out tanks, but awful at everything else. Let's just hope he doesn't end up low tier like Mac though. Now that the introduction is out of the way, let's go over his abilities real quick and how to use them. First up, we got his passive Pick Grit, and it's got two parts, the first being Heavy Hands. Pretty much Sett will just do a 1-2 punch combo with his right hand getting extra range, attack speed, and damage. This means you'll want to smack people with the right hook as often as possible, and it can be prepped on a secondary target ahead of time like a minion for example, making it a lot easier to do during the laning phase. The second part of his passive is Heart of the Half Beast, gives him health regen based off his missing HP, kinda like Mundo or Garen passive. Next up, we got his Q, Knuckle Down. It's a basic auto attack reset that gives bonus damage on his next 2 hits, but it also has got some movement speed attached to it when running towards your opponent, kinda like when Clegg gets dismounted. There's nothing else really to say about this ability. Use it when you need some slight mobility to punch someone in the face, or use it to reset your 1-2 punch combo after your right hook comes in. Sett's next ability is his W Haymaker. This is pretty much Sett's main source of burst damage, where he just Kamehamehas and blasts in front of him, dealing true damage if the person's in the center. It also has a passive where he stores up Grit, which is just a meter that builds up when he takes damage. Once it's full, he actually does turn Super Saiyan, but unlike Goku, it's not going to take 10 episodes of him yelling at me to reach Super Saiyan 3, but the bar will decay pretty quickly instead. Not only that, but when you W, you're also going to gain a shield equal to the amount of Grit that you have for 3 seconds. You're going to want to use this ability as your main source of burst whenever your Grit is stacked up or when people get out of your auto attack range. Plus, it's perfect for blocking tower shots when you go for tower dives. Sett's E is Facebreaker. This is Sett's main source of CC, and he pulls everything at his front and back, dealing a bit of damage and a short slow. The important part of that is that it affects at least one person on each side it's gonna stun. It's kind of like a Zac Q in a way, but slightly harder to aim. Use this ability to drag people towards you so you can keep punching them, or use it on a minion to secure yourself an easy stun. Last but not least, we got Sett's R, the Showstopper. I can already hear Trick2G's voice just yelling suplex every time this ability goes off. Okay, clearly I don't do it as good as him, but I did my best, so let's just move on. What this ability does is you pretty much just pick someone up and then slam them on the ground, dealing AoE damage to everyone around you. The issue with this ultimate though is it's only got 400 range, and Sett has no real mobility to even get into 400 range, so instead the ultimate should be used as a counter-engage tool or just a dueling tool instead of an engage tool like most people think they want to use it. The proper way to use Sett ult is you're pretty much going to want to kidnap an enemy frontline champion like an assassin and then suplex them into the middle of your team for a free kill, or you can ult the enemy Sion or Nunu and use them as a free trip into the enemy backline while dealing an absurd amount of AoE damage. Now onto the combo section. You'll actually note that in the Aphelios video, I didn't even include a combo section, and that's because he can hit his abilities or guns in any order and it will work, so I felt like it was pretty pointless. Sett, on the other hand, does have some useful combos to know, so I'll go over them here along with when they should be used. First up, we got combo number 1, which is his DPS combo, and it's pretty basic. You're just going to want to do auto Q auto. This is your most common trading pattern, as the auto attack reset on your Q will allow you to quickly get another right hook in. If you decided to go Titanic Hydra as well, you can also extend this trade combo by using it at the end of the second auto, giving you 3 right hands really quickly. Next up, we got combo number 2, Facebreaker Burst combo. You're just going to want to do EQ, auto, and then W. This should be used in the middle of a minion wave if possible to get the stun, but it's not always needed. The goal of this combo is to get a quick trade in when your opponent can't really fight back. You can actually extend this trading pattern by autoing twice before the first Q or continue after your W, as you'll likely have the Grit stacked up, allowing you to trade unharmed. Our last combo to go over I nicknamed the Kidnapper. You're going to want to do ER, auto, Q, auto, W. This is one of my favorite Sett combos, and you should be using this one when you're looking for solo kills or as a gank setup for when your jungler comes, or even when you're looking for a tower dive. You're gonna want to lead with your E first as it has slightly longer range, but also it will allow you to better position yourself to kin out your opponent in the correct direction, allowing you to have your passive DPS combo with your W to help tank a tower shot right after. Or you can execute the enemy once they leave auto range. Though, if your opponent does allow you to lead with your R, the combo will look like this. You're just going to want to do R, auto Q, auto E, and then auto W, which is definitely better, but people aren't that bad normally, and they won't let you get this combo off. And that's pretty much it. Sett's combos are pretty basic, and most of his other combos are just different variations of allowing you to get in more auto attacks or less auto attacks depending on how long you can actually trade. Alright, let's move on to his setup now. Starting items, you're going to want to go Doran's Shield on Health Potion as your most common starting item, but I'm sure people will figure out what matchups he can cheat on and go Doran's Blade anyways. With that said, your core items are going to be Trinity Force, Titanic Hydra, and Dead Man's Plate. Finish the build off with other defensive items like Spear Visage, Guardian Angels, or Starrock's Gauge. For your runes, the keystone is pretty set. You're going to want to go Conqueror with Resolve Secondary so he can be a bit tankier as he excels at longer fights. As for his leveling sequence, I would max Q, then W, and then E. Gives you the most amount of DPS and survivability, though you could max W in range matchups. Now, I know he's a jungler, but I'm not going to go too in-depth into his jungle setup. You're just going to want to max Q into W, then you'll want to go Blue Smite, Cinder Hulk, Black Cleaver, Titanic Hydra as your core items. For his power spikes, he has one of the best level 1 DPSs in top lane. He's not going to be gods like Darius, but anyone below that should be very simple thanks to the consistent damage and healing from his passive plus Q. His next power spike is actually level 3 as he gains a lot of kill pressure on most melee matchups. Followed by level 6 where his gank assist and tower dive potential become unsettlingly strong. Like most other juggernauts, Sett will be at his peak during the mid game well on 2 to 3 items and will start to slowly scale down as more mage type champions gain a bigger advantage off of item spikes. Sett during the laning phase excels at extended trades, tower diving, and gank setup post 6. Step 1 to laning as Sett, you're going to want to use your left punch on minions and then your right punch on enemy champions trying to last hit minions. Step number 2, you're going to want to stand in between the enemy caster line and melee line, and if the enemy comes too close, you're just going to want to hit him with a face breaker combo. Step number 3, if the enemy tries to auto trade with you, remember that you will win extended trades thanks to your W when it's on full grip, being a great tool to turn around fights combined with your passive regen. You can also drag people back to keep punching them with your E even if you don't have the stun lined up if you feel like you're going to win the trade. Step number 4, at level 6 you're going to want to slow push your wave and absolutely beg for a gank. Offer the jungler whatever they desire as compensation, even if it means the law of surprise. Google it if you don't know. Sett's tower dive potential and gank assist are some of the best in top lane, so you're going to want to take advantage of it. And finally, step number 5. All other tips will only work against melee champions. Versus ranged champions, stay under tower and farm until 6 and pray they either tank tower aggro so you can kidnap combo them or your jungler appears. I wish I wasn't joking about this, he truly sucks versus ranged champions. During the teamfight phase, you're more of a frontline DPS champion designed to stack up grit and DPS the enemy frontline until you see a chance to set up a showstopper in the enemy backline. Step number 1, auto the enemy frontline. Step number 2, use W on full stacks of grit for the shield plus massive damage. Step number 3, if your backline is stronger than the enemy backline, save your E and R to peel the enemy divers. Step number 4, if the enemy backline is stronger, suplex the enemy frontliner into the enemy backline where you have max stacks of grit. Use your E and then right hook primed up so you can get the maximum amount of burst on the enemy backline. And lastly, step number 5. Once again, if they are a full range comp, it's pretty doomed for you. And if you don't have flash up, you should just consider split pushing and then flanking a team fight. Otherwise, you might as well have just picked Ornn. Next up, you're likely wondering what champ Sett will lane best against or poorly against. It's pretty clear cut though. He will win almost all matchups versus tanks, and he'll have even matchups versus other juggernauts or bruisers, well besides, Darius or Mord for obvious reasons, and get destroyed by ranged champions faster than my LP did at the end of Season 9. As for what junglers he pairs best with, he's going to do best with Elise for the Observed Eye potential, Olaf for that amazing 2v2, or even Lee Sin for that double kidnap ultimate. Kick into suplex while someone is under tower just seems really unfun to deal with. In this section, I'm going to briefly go over the things you want to avoid when fighting Sett, so if you didn't get him because someone picked it away from you, you can at least beat him. Step number 1, extended auto trades versus him are not advised. Step number 2, pay attention to the minion wave so he doesn't stun you with his E. Step number 3, and the most important of all, All of his damage comes from his W. You can either dodge the middle portion of it to avoid the true damage, or you can wait out his grip meter as it decays pretty quickly. Do not get hit by the W with the grip meter full. He's gonna go Super Saiyan on your ass and you will die. And the best section of all, the TLDR for those who want to come back and rewatch the video another time. To start off, he is a physical damage anti-tank juggernaut who excels at long fights and tower diving. Passive gives him health regen and your second auto is stronger. Q is an auto attack reset with damage. His W gives him a shield and AoE damage up front based off of your grip meter. His E is like Zack's Q, it just slams people together for a stun. His R is like the second version of Zack Ultimate, lets you pick someone up but then deal a bunch of damage upon landing. Combos are just making sure that you can stay in range and utilizing his passive with auto resets for max DPS. His build is Trinity Force Titanic Hydra Deadman like most bruisers would do. Then his runes are Conquer Resolve Secondary like most bruisers would do. His level sequence is QWE like I think most bruisers would do. And then his power spikes are 1, 3, 6 and then the mid game with Trinity Force completion like most bruisers even though he's a juggernaut. For the laning phase, you're going to want to use combo number 1 early and often. You're going to want to use combo number 2 when the enemy tries to last hit, take extended trades, and then use your W with grit to turn the fight around. Once you're 6, just beg for ganks and then use combo 3. In team fights, you're just going to want to hit the front line, save ER to peel if your backline is stronger, and if the enemy backline is stronger, you're going to want to save your ER till the enemy backline bunches up, and then kidnapper combo the enemy front line into the backline. For counters and synergies, you are good versus tanks, even versus most other melee champions, and you should be decent versus assassins. You are god-awful versus ranged champions as you get kited pretty easily. Oh, and to beat Sett, dodge his W on full grit. That's it for our Sett for Dummies guide, so let us know in the comment section below what you thought about this format and if you have any improvements for it. Make sure to check out our other videos on this channel as well as Mobalytics.gg, but as always, I'm Moriarty, and I'll see you out on the Rift.